Hello everyone, and welcome to my Days of Our Lives official. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
Mom. Finally. As Kristen confronted Mother on Friday, the show confirmed that the woman in white is Rachel Blake. It felt kind of ridiculous to be so coy, but we all knew it and had been waiting for it. However, I guess they wanted the drama of Kristen making the announcement. The meaty details, however, should be revealed on Monday when Kristen and her mother reunite and we learn how Rachel got back to where she came from. My wish. In addition to delving deeper into Rachel's distant history with Stefano and her relationship with the DiMaras, this will also reveal a few surprising family secrets that are related to Tony's comeback. He was a part of the original Armid plot after all. In other words, Andre was posing as Tony. Days in the Blake home, Kristen sits on the covered couch as Ava leans forward, still strapped to the wheelchair. Despite the lengthy pauses between episodes, I appreciate how quickly this tale is progressing. I just want things to keep going and not repeat themselves. I don't mind lengthier narratives or ones that blaze through in a few days. Steve has already determined that Ava is not in Hong Kong. Thank you for not wasting time phoning Trip, and Kristen has located her. However, given that she is aware that her mother is still alive and assisting, I have no doubt that she will be complicit in this plot. When everything is revealed and Ava is saved, I believe Kristen will have finally sealed the deal on her relationship with Brady. However, I am unable to type that with composure. At least it's moving, even though it's not quite finished yet. In the interim, putting the towel in. Alright, I give in. Since I was enjoying myself with him, I was ready to put up with the Robo-Rafe nonsense, even though I know many people couldn't get past the fact that no one could tell Rafe wasn't Rafe. As I mentioned last week, I usually prefer the weddings of the writing team, so I appreciated the build-up to the wedding and the festivities. Jada, Robo-Rafe, and Arnold's wedding days at her wedding. Jada glares at Arnold while standing with her fists on her hips. However, on Monday, when we were to the wedding itself, I finally lost interest. Rafe's justification for accepting a covert job to look into Jada and lying to her about it was completely nonsensical. That shouldn't have been purchased. Yes, I adore you and despise EJ, but I lied and have been shady about it since the beginning because I thought you would be innocent, and it was easy money. Even worse, the alleged accusations made against her sounded like, we discovered fraud. What sort of fraud is this? The negative kind of deception. Once more, nobody ought to have purchased it. It was a "what are you thinking" moment when Sean showed up for the wedding carrying an enigmatic dossier that had just materialized on his desk. He rushed there to stop it with an extremely suspicious file, even though he didn't want to be late and risk disturbing it. At Jada's own wedding, more people ought to have spoken up for her. And Paulina is concerned about her reputation if she weds someone who might be a criminal and then puts a phony Rafe back in his previous role because it will generate the fewest waves. That does sound like a politician, actually. Alright, continue. Days sitting in their kitchen, still in their wedding attire, Kayla glances at Steve. In any case, I'm relieved that the Johnsons are aware of it and that Steve is aware that EJ is the one who made this up. He hurried from rescuing Kayla to assisting Jada to uncovering the truth about Ava's journey for Brady. He ought to have been appointed commissioner by Paulina. Or perhaps she ought to resign so that he might become mayor. There must be some strange Salem law that permits it. Anyway, now that it's obvious how shady Rafe was acting and how linked this was with EJ, everyone should be aware of EJ's involvement. Many people should have at least jumped to brainwashing, but as I stated last week, nobody in this narrative other than EJ and Rafe really participated in the initial Robo-Rafe run. They have all experienced it. Upon his return, Gabby had to cope with Stefan's brainwashing. Steve was implanted with Stefano's essence chip or something similar. And Sean's own father's brain had been converted into DiMaras soup, so he shot him into a coma. Alright, let's finish up. In the rear-view mirror, the body and soul stalker story was one that they concluded quickly. Technically speaking, it has been going on for months, but all of a sudden, they simply flipped a switch to stop it. The superiors seemed to have said, "Shut it down now," and that was about it. Days Paulina sits in a chair looking scared while Abe smiles down at a smiling Whitley in her hospital bed and gown. The discovery didn't surprise any of us, and the big encounter seemed to be paced strangely. Whitley has been in her Bayview room, hanging pictures with large red X's on her wall, and, no one has bothered to ask why. And the hospital simply happened to have an antidote on hand, even though it was an experimental medicine that was used to poison everyone. With Abe and Kate revealing body and soul's fate, it appears that the soap opera will conclude next week. I'm left wondering why this whole thing happened. Body and soul, not just the stalker. I was pleasantly startled by Abe's, and even other fans' outburst of sympathy for Whitley, but that was far too lengthy a story to get into the nature of fandom and stand-on. When enthusiasm becomes so pervasive that it becomes hazardous. I briefly believed they were going to murder Joy or Hattie, but they didn't. All of the non-actors in Salem will return to their non-actor status whenever the production relocates back to Los Angeles. If Body and Soul hadn't gotten in the way, Alex and Stephanie would have reunited sooner rather than later. Johnny and Chanel have returned to their stable foundation. Was it all in vain, then? I'm seeing Satan flashbacks where the devil would joyously play pranks on couples without any justification, then go, leaving behind nothing except stories about, remember when the devil was here? Fans can, however, at least move on from Body and Soul after next week. Wandering thoughts. Although I understand and generally enjoy the love/hate, flirty/horny dynamic between Belle and EJ, I thought her reaction to his schemes against Jada was a little too subdued. Sarah's warnings to Phillip to remain in line lest she tell Xander the truth about the letter will eventually come to nothing. Telling Xander will make her life as much as Phillip's, and he must quickly come to that realization. Tell Jada about Rafe's infidelity, please, Javi. Please. Then perhaps she will discover that Rafe isn't in his right mind, at the very least. In any case, this week we only saw about 30 seconds of Kat, and even less of her interacting with Chad. This is a no-burn, not even a slow-burn romance. They'll return to it after everything else is finished, I suppose. Those scenes with Chad and Julie are always so wonderful, yet painful. It's amazing to see his soft smile as he acknowledges her feelings and softly urges her to continue. Julie, you can do this. I briefly believed they were going to murder Joy or Hattie, but they didn't. All of the non-actors in Salem will return to their non-actor status whenever the production relocates back to Los Angeles. If Body and Soul hadn't gotten in the way, Alex and Stephanie would have reunited sooner rather than later. That does sound like a politician, actually. Alright, continue. Thanks for watching if you like this video, so please don't forget to subscribe my channel and don't miss any update.